What's up, guys? Tuesday night video. Not a lot of these around lately, but I think I might make it a feature of this channel going forward because this team is in an interesting spot right now and there's a lot to discuss. So I might start making a Tuesday video every week because when your team is rebuilding or semi-rebuilding, there's a lot to talk about. So I have the whiteboard out, but I'm not going to be using it on camera. I'm just going to be using it because I made a list of things I want to talk about. Um, Basically, most of this video is going to be talking about how this team can get better right now for week 2, week 3, week 4, go onward. And the things that I heard from Pete Carroll today are going to play a big part in some of the things I talk about today because I think Pete said some really, really interesting things in his press conference today and things that I think we kind of indicate to us where the optimism can come from. Rocking the 12 jersey for the first time this year. I'm not a big jersey guy, but I had it here and I thought it'd be fun to bust it out. Okay, so first of all, the first thing I want to get into, that Broncos post-game video I made, I got a lot of comments from people saying things like, oh, calm down, don't get mad, don't get angry, it's only one game, it's not a big deal, the team didn't look so bad, da 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 da. I know, okay, believe me. I got a little bit mad at Russell Wilson for some of the stuff he was doing. But in terms of winning or losing games, especially a game in Denver to start the season, trust me, this team is not going to make me mad this year. The only thing on this team this year that can make me mad is experienced, high caliber veterans not doing their job. That's it. Believe me. Losing a game by 3 points in Denver where, you're integrating all these new players and you're playing all these rookies, I'm not mad. No Seahawks fan should really be mad at what happened out there today. It's always a little frustrating to lose a game you could win, but this team cannot hurt me this year with what I see on the field. If you want to get me mad about this team, maybe bring up the fact that we let Sheldon Richardson go in free agency, and he's over in Minnesota torturing Jimmy Garoppolo. Meanwhile, we spent that money on guys like Ed Dixon, who might not play this year at this rate. I don't know. Sebastian Janikowski, who is Sebastian Janikowski, and J.R. Sweezy. That pisses me off. Losing a game by 3 in Denver in week 1, no. Okay, so how can this team get better in the short term? How can we be better next week? Defense. Let's start with the defense because, to be flat honest with you, if Case Keenum did not throw the ball right at Seahawks players 3 times on Sunday, they probably would have scored 35 to 40 points, and we would be sitting here like, oh my God, the defense is terrible. Instead, we're sitting here like, the defense needs a little bit of work, but they did some, we're in the middle about it instead of like the sky is falling. Pass rush, biggest problem I saw out there on the field on Sunday. If you want to name one reason why we lost, it was because we didn't touch Case Keenum for most of that game. 1 sack, a couple other pressures. He was able to pitch a tent in the pocket for most of that game. Deion Jordan. There was one thing Pete Carroll said today that caught my attention that made me think, oh, well, maybe this can get better. Deion Jordan, 15 snaps out of, I want to say, 55 to 60 offensive Denver plays. He played 25 to 30% of the snaps. That's it right there, guys. If you want this defense, this pass rush, to have some kind of magic bullet, some sort of magic formula where they get better all of a sudden and they're able to pressure quarterbacks, the name is Deion Jordan. And to hear that he only played in 25% of that game because they were taking it easy with him because it was his first game in a while and he's been hurt a lot lately. They wanted to see if he could keep it up over 15 plays, and they're going to extend his playing time as the games go on. That's it, because even if Frank Clark has a really good season, which I'm sure he will, even if Rasheem Green has a great rookie season, even if Poona Ford and Quentin Jefferson and Tom Johnson and all these guys who are, bid players, even if they all live up to their expectations and then some, we need another guy. Or else every game we play this year is going to be like what we saw in Denver, where Case Keenum just had all day in the pocket. Deion Jordan, if by week 4 or week 5 he's playing in 90% or 80% of the snaps on defense and he's getting rush on the quarterback, which we know he can do, that's the guy who can really help things on this defense. So we cross our fingers for Dion, hope he's ready to go for, more like 25 to 30 snaps next week, and we get him up to speed quickly. So that's the guy who can fix things, because if we can't get a pass rush on these quarterbacks, cancel it. What do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to do? Linebackers, look, I mean, it's not going to be a huge deal when KJ Wright gets back in a few weeks, hopefully. We know that KJ would not have made the mistakes that Shaquem and later Kalitro made in that Broncos game. Shaquem, I'll say this. What I've seen of Shaquem, what I know about Shaquem Griffin, I think he could show massive improvement as early as next week. I think he is a guy who will quickly learn from his mistakes against the Broncos, quickly implement those mistakes into what he is doing on the field, and I think we could see, if he plays, which we're not 100%, I think Shaquem could show big improvements in week 2, and we don't notice him as a liability out there. That's just my gut feeling about the guy. If he plays, by the way, I mean, we already know Pete Carroll said as much today. They benched him because he wasn't playing well, and later on in the game they let him in a little bit more, but Kalitro got snaps and he wasn't much better, so I don't know exactly what they're doing there, but I think Shaquem can get better very quickly. I think he'll learn. Not so confident about this next guy, Trey Flowers. He's the liability in the secondary right now. Everyone else in that secondary, I have reasonable faith in them right now, especially after, what Bradley McDougald did out there on Sunday. But I would really hope that the Seahawks bring in a guy, maybe 2 or 3 guys this week, and work them out, try them out, and see if they can maybe shore up that second cornerback spot, because I mean, this Trey Flowers thing is going to cost us big time in these games until he starts playing better. And given that Trey Flowers is a 5th round rookie who is, adjusting to cornerback because he didn't even play cornerback in college, I don't think. I don't think it's going to get better right now. I don't think he's going to come out against week 2 against the Bears and play a great game. It's probably going to be several games, maybe even the whole season, before we start to see signs that he's starting to really get it. My question is, and I don't know for sure how I feel about this, so feel free to comment with however you feel about it. Is it beneficial for Trey Flowers to go out there and get his ass kicked? Because if you tell me that Trey Flowers is going to learn from all of these times he's getting burned in coverage and messing up out there, and by week 11 or 12 he's playing good, and next year we have a really solid number 2 cornerback because he learned from all this, then maybe I'm willing to take the L's right now. But I'm worried about his psyche, because it's not just that he's out there getting beat sometimes. He is the guy that defenses are looking at right now and going, that guy cannot cover anybody. Just throw it his guy whenever you need to make a play. So everyone give your thoughts on how you feel about that. But I would like the Seahawks to bring in a veteran, DeAndre Elliott, Jeremy Lane, Deshaun Shedd. If any of those guys are healthy, I would strongly consider it. Okay, that's the defense. Offense, real quick. Doug Baldwin, out probably 3 games if I had to guess with the MCL thing. There's no way around this, guys. He's by far our best receiver. By far the best player on this offense with Wilson. He's by far the guy who gets open the most. And I really have to ask how this offense is going to work effectively without him. And that's the most frustrating thing. I really wanted to see these guys see what they had this season on offense, and I now know that Doug Baldwin, for at least these next few games, there's just no chance. How can these guys be everything that we want them to be? How can these guys live up to their expectations when you pull your number 1 receiver and only super reliable receiver out of the mix entirely? So as somebody who wanted to see what Wilson and Carson and Lockett and even a guy like Jerron Brown could do this year, just to see what we have, Now I'm sitting here like, well, their jobs just all got way harder. So what can I even? Is it even fair for me to expect much of anything? So at the same time, Baldwin, both of his legs are messed up now. That's just a fact. Both of Baldwin's legs are messed up. He's already said he's battling a chronic leg injury. He's going to deal with it all season. Now his other leg. It would not shock me if this team just decided to shut him down for the year. And if we do that, I'm going to support it because this is not a Super Bowl team anyway. I don't need Doug Baldwin going out there and ripping up his ligaments and really hurting himself, trying to gut out a 8 or 9 win season. So there's nothing to say about that other than it's a bummer. I'll be once again, guys, leaning on more late round undrafted rookies. And the more we lean on those guys, the less we can expect out there on the field. We cannot expect a great product out on the field as long as we keep plugging in these guys who should not be out there. Bummer. DJ Fluker's day-to-day. Carroll didn't really say anything definitive on whether or not he would play against the Bears. I'm telling you, I think a lot of things on this offense would get cleared up and look a lot better if Fluker was out there. I think he's a great run blocker. I think that Carson and Penny would both immediately play much better with DJ Fluker out there. I think that the sum of the offensive line's parts would look a lot better just because he knocks out a guard who's very, very mediocre, as we well know, and it gives us one weak spot on the offensive line instead of two. And it lets us, it takes the pressure off Ethan Posick. So really, really praying that Fluker gets back in time for week 2 against Chicago because, as we saw Sunday night, that's going to be a tough game. Rashad Penny, Carroll commented on him as well. He looked sluggish, out of shape, slow, stuff we all already knew. I'm not surprised. He's a rookie who missed his entire preseason. So, I'll stand by what I said. I've never been crazy about the Rashad Penny pick, but I still say that a lot of the stuff that you're going to see from him these first few weeks is going to be difficult to judge him on. The good news is Carroll seemed to commit to giving Chris Carson the majority of the carries for now. So, lesson learned, because we tried to split the carries evenly against Denver. And unless Carson was hurt, which I'm hearing rumors, it might be true, it didn't make a lot of sense. So, not judging Penny, just, happy to see that the best player is going to be playing most of the snaps. So, that's all the stuff I can see this team getting better. We didn't play bad against Denver, but you can see where the team is struggling, and that's where the improvement can come from in terms of the macro stuff. So, I want to address this Russell Wilson thing because I got a lot of comments on my last video. This is going to take me a minute to get through. I want to explain to you why I say what I say about Wilson, where I am coming from, and why I think like this. So you're going to have to give me a few minutes. This is going to be a very long video, but that's fine. It's a midweek video. I got comments about what I said about Wilson on my last video. A lot of people agreed. A lot of people didn't. That's fine. I thought that the people who disagreed with me made many valid points. I mean, it's completely fair to say that, especially with no Doug Baldwin out there, he doesn't have another good player on offense with him. Everybody is above average at best. A lot of them are below average. Some of them are bad. That's all very reasonable. But here's what I don't get. Here's where I really lose the stream. I bring up stuff that Wilson could be doing that he isn't doing that could help this team win more. And I reference other quarterbacks doing those things and successfully helping their teams win a game that they would otherwise lose. And I get these comments. Like, I know one guy specifically. I'm not going to name him. I mean, I got no problem with this guy for bringing up this point because on one level, I agree with it. He says, well, Russell Wilson isn't as good as Aaron Rodgers. He's not as good as Tom Brady. He's not as good as Drew Brees. Going back to retired guys, he's not as good as Peyton Manning or Brett Favre or any of those guys. So, he doesn't do those things because he's not as good as them. And if you really boil down any Russell Wilson debate you can have with another Seahawks fan who is a Russell Wilson defender, it a lot of times it boils down to stuff like that. Like I was saying that Russell Wilson should have been playing a quick passing game, getting the ball out of his hands faster to take Von Miller out of the game. And people are telling me, well, he's still one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, so I don't know what else you could want from him. He threw for a league-leading 34 touchdowns last year. What do you want him to do? He's not as good as those guys. So, and here's the thing, guys. I agree. Russell Wilson is not as good as Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Peyton Manning or any of those guys. I just don't see why the conversation ends there. Why I, as a fan, am supposed to say, oh, you're right, he's not as good as those guys, so let's move on. Where's the part where we as fans want him to go, okay, I'm not as good as those guys. What do I have to do to get better so that I am as good as those guys? What do I have to do so I can be like Drew Brees, who carries a team to a 10-6 record by throwing for 500 yards, even though their defense isn't very good because they have Greg Williams and their running game is hit or miss? What do I have to do to be Tom Brady, dragging a team with Gronkowski and Belichick and nothing else really good to a Super Bowl? What do I have to do to be those guys? So why can't we expect him to improve and get better to where we can say, yeah, he's as good as those guys? Not Aaron Rodgers. He'll never be as good as Aaron Rodgers in a million years. That guy, he does things that are literally impossible for pretty much anybody else in the world to do. But, okay, I'll take the Aaron Rodgers example real quick because, first of all, I understand it. Aaron Rodgers is a freak of nature. No quarterback in NFL history, in my experience, can do the things that Aaron Rodgers does in terms of I'm throwing the ball off my back foot. I'm throwing it across my body. I have 3 guys falling on me. My receiver is double covered, 40 yards down the field. I'm still going to throw this ball, and I'm still going to hit him for a touchdown. No other quarterback in NFL history can do that. I'm not asking Wilson to do that. And, in fact, if he tried to do it, I might parachute into the stadium and try to kick his ass. I would get my ass kicked, but, I mean, no other quarterback in NFL history should even try the stuff that Aaron Rodgers does in terms of throwing off his back foot 50 yards down the field. You cannot emulate that arm talent. But where I decide to express myself negatively in terms of Russell Wilson is stuff like, if you watch that Sunday night game, Aaron Rodgers, forget the arm talent. Forget the 50-yard touchdown pass he threw to Geronimo Allison off one leg. Forget that for a second. Think about that first half where Khalil Mack was eating Aaron Rodgers alive, nearly knocked him out for the season, knocked him out for, like 5 or 10 minutes actually, and the Packers could do nothing to block him. Aaron Rodgers comes out in that second half with no mobility, goes to a quick passing game. He's getting the ball out of his hands. And as the game goes on, he comes up with other good plays that involve taking guys like Khalil Mack out of the game and still allowing him to move the ball down the field. The Packers score 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, complete a miracle comeback. Khalil Mack does nothing in the second half, basically. He has no impact on the game. Aaron Rodgers switched to a game plan that took Khalil Mack out of the game. He didn't just stand back there and go, okay, he's going to sack me 3 times in this half, so I'm going to just have to overcome it. That's the kind of stuff that I expect from Wilson. And I think every Seahawks fan should. I mean, think about how close we are, guys. Whatever I can say about Russell Wilson negatively, I know he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league. He's one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the league right now. We're waiting on to see what Wentz gets when he gets back, but I know how good he is, but we're that close. Why don't we say, okay, what does he have to do to be top 3, top 2? What does he have to do to be as good as those guys? Why can't I ask for him to improve? Like, I was watching this Denver game, and I honestly felt like we looked at this game, and we said, okay, we have Jermaine Ifedi, he sucks. The Broncos have Von Miller, he's elite. The Broncos have a great pass rush in general. We don't have very good tackles, so there are two ways you can look at a situation like that. And I felt like the attitude that this team took almost, and the kind of attitude that the fans who say some of these things take is, well, Wilson's going to get sacked like 5 or 6 times in this game, and we're just going to have to overcome that. He's going to have, 10 to 12 to 14 plays ruined in this game because the pass rush destroys him, and we're just going to have to overcome it by doing really well on all the other plays we have. So, don't try to stop them from sacking Russell Wilson 6 times. Just try to do good on the plays where he doesn't get sacked. We go there instead of going, okay, what game plan, what strategy, what methodology can we use to make it so he doesn't get sacked 6 or 7 times? What can we do so Von Miller doesn't ruin our game plan? How can we get the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands in 1 or 2 seconds? How can we go to a 3-step drop game where he's getting the ball out of his hands before Von Miller has a chance to do anything? You want to put it on the game planner? You want to put it on Schottenheimer? Okay, I'll give you a little bit of that. But I also see plays like, it was one of the biggest plays of the game. 3rd and 5, like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Seahawks down by 3 points in their own territory. We get a first down. We can start marching the ball down the field, score with a little bit of time left, get out of there with a win. He's got a receiver open at the sticks. I think it was Jerron Brown. I can't remember. He had a dude open. He was looking right at him. You hit that 3rd down conversion. We're marching down the field. We have a chance to win this thing. Wilson doesn't let the ball go out of his hands. He stands there. He spins around. He gets sacked. We punt. Boom. Game basically over. We give up a couple first downs. Next time we get the ball, we have to march 90 yards in a minute with no timeouts. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And to the Seahawks fans out there who basically just leave it at, he's not as good as Drew Brees or Tom Brady or, even Aaron Rodgers, although I understand Rodgers has some things in his game that nobody can emulate. I just don't think that's a good way to look at it when you're talking about a quarterback who we are paying a lot of money, and next year we're going to be paying Aaron Rodgers money. Because Russell Wilson will get $35 million a year in free agency next year. We're going to have to give him that kind of money if we want to keep him, and I'm sure we will. He's top 4. I want him to be top 2. I know he can get there. I really believe that. So that's why I get down on him when I see him do things that aren't helping the team win and help the team lose. Wow, this is one of the longest videos I've ever made, but there was a lot to get through. There's a lot of questions about this team, and I just want to make myself clear about the Wilson thing. And by the way, guys, I understand there's some complicated things going on that might be beyond Wilson. I mean, we don't even have Doug Baldwin out there now. Maybe it's literally impossible for these guys to run a quick pass offense. I find that hard to believe, given that New England keeps cycling in random players every year, and suddenly Aaron Rodgers is throwing to Geronimo Allison. Who is that? And they don't seem to have a huge problem with it, but I don't know. I'm just holding this guy to a high standard because I think he can reach it, and I think it's reasonable for us to expect him to reach it. Okay, I'll come with a pregame video when it's time for me to come with a pregame video, but hoping for improvement next week. This is where I can see it happening, everything I went through in this video. And Russell Wilson, you're going to get a $150 million deal at the end of this year probably. So I just want to see more things that make me feel good about giving him that money. Peace out.